You wouldn't believe how softly this story actually started. Seriously. There was no grand reveal, no emotional sit-down interview, no happy photos posted for the public to dissect. One seemingly normal day, a quiet murmur began drifting through social media and news spaces. And honestly, at first, almost no one wanted to accept it. People started whispering that something major had happened within the Obama family. Something so carefully guarded that even the most relentless media sources had completely missed it. Then, little by little, the reality began to surface. Sasha Obama had become a mother. Just like that. No heads up, no buzz, no spotlight shining down, but here's where it gets truly shocking. This wasn't just another celebrity baby headline. This wasn't a story that had been packaged, timed, and rolled out for the public with glossy perfection. From the very start, this felt different. It felt concealed, shielded, almost sealed off from the outside world. For a family that spent years living under intense public scrutiny, that level of quiet felt unusual. So what made this story stand apart? It wasn't simply the birth of a child. It was the extreme care taken to keep this moment completely out of sight. When the first mentions appeared, people didn't know what to believe. Some brushed it off as another internet rumor. Others insisted it couldn't possibly be true, because surely news this big couldn't stay hidden. But that's where things took an interesting turn. There were no statements denying it. No confirmations either. Just silence. And in today's world, silence can speak louder than anything else. The quieter the family remained, the more curiosity grew. Questions started piling up. When did this happen? How did no one notice? And above all, why was everything kept so tightly under wraps? The wildest part was just how flawlessly the secret had been maintained. Think about it for a moment. This was the daughter of a former president. A family followed by cameras for years. A name recognized across the globe. And still, an entire pregnancy passed without igniting a media frenzy. Fate had taken an unexpected turn, and it unfolded right in front of everyone without being seen. People began looking back, re-examining old photos, past appearances, scattered rumors, trying to piece something together. But nothing stood out clearly enough. It felt like this part of Sasha's life had been written behind closed doors, in a space no one else could access. And here's something that made this story even stranger. Usually, when someone well-known is expecting a baby, there are hints. Friends talk. Someone leaks information. A blurry photo surfaces. But this time, there was almost nothing at all. No public build-up. No countdown. No speculation games. Just a sudden, quiet understanding that the baby had already arrived. And that left people feeling like they had missed something huge, something meaningful, something never intended for public eyes. Then came another surprise. The baby was a girl. Even that small detail carried weight. A new life had entered a family that had already left its mark on history. Yet the world was only learning about it after everything was already done. People started wondering if this was all intentional. Was it a conscious choice to protect the child? Or was there a deeper reason behind the silence? Some believe the family had learned from the past. Years of cameras. Years of headlines. Years of constant pressure. Maybe this time they wanted something else. Maybe they wanted one moment that truly belonged only to them. But here's the shocking part once again. Even as the story began to spread, the details were still nowhere to be found. No name revealed. No date mentioned, no inside story from the room where everything happened. It felt like a door had been locked and no one was given the key. People weren't just curious anymore, they were emotionally invested. So many had watched Sasha grow up right before their eyes. From a little girl living in the White House to a young woman trying to carve out a normal life. And now, suddenly, she was a mother. That shift felt sudden. Even though it clearly took months, it made people realize just how much of her life had unfolded far from public view, and that's where the story began to feel even more complicated. The more people talked about the baby, the clearer it became that they actually knew nothing at all. It was like hearing the final sentence of a book without ever reading the chapters before it. You knew something major had occurred, but you didn't know how it started, how it felt, or what it demanded emotionally. What made it even more fascinating was how calm and controlled everything appeared on the surface. There was no chaos, no public emotion, no celebration shared with the world. Just a quiet shift in reality. Sasha Obama was no longer only a daughter tied to history. She'd become a mother, and she had done it entirely on her own terms, far away from the noise. But that was only the outer layer of the story, because the real questions were still unanswered. How did she manage to live such a huge chapter of her life in complete privacy? Who was truly beside her through this journey? And why did this particular moment change the direction of her life so deeply? Because once you looked closer, it became clear this wasn't simply about a baby. It was about choices, about stepping away, about control, and about a young woman who had spent her entire life being observed, finally finding a way to disappear during the most important moment of all. And believe me, this was just the start of what made this story so hard to believe. For years, people thought they understood Sasha Obama's life. They had seen her grow up. They had watched her walk alongside her parents. They had seen her smile at public events. But the truth was, they only knew what was shown to them. What came next proved just how mistaken everyone had been. This is where things get interesting. Because while the world assumed Sasha was living a simple, quiet life, something much bigger was slowly forming far away from the cameras. You see, Sasha learned very early what it meant to live under constant attention. Every step, every move, every small change once became news. And maybe that was exactly why, when she finally had the chance to create her own life, she chose to do it in silence. She stayed clear of headlines. She avoided the spotlight, and gradually, almost without anyone realizing, she faded from the daily noise of fame. But here's the shocking part. While people were busy talking about politics, about her parents, about everything else, Sasha was quietly building a life no one was watching. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't aiming to become a public figure. She was simply trying to live normally. And somewhere within that quiet life, she met Clifton Powell Jr. The wildest part was how little anyone knew about their relationship. There were no big headlines, no public posts, no dramatic speculation. If his name surfaced at all, it did so briefly and then disappeared again. And yet, this wasn't something temporary. This wasn't just a moment that passed. This was something consistent, something meaningful, something quietly developing while the world wasn't paying attention. What truly sets this story apart? It wasn't a romance that played out online. It wasn't a relationship seeking validation from strangers. It was a story that stayed private, tucked safely behind closed doors. People eventually realized that while they were busy speculating about Sasha's future, her future was already taking shape in a very real and deeply personal way. Destiny shifted unexpectedly. And it didn't arrive loudly. It came through quiet choices, ordinary days, and moments meant only for those involved. And over time, that quiet life grew into something far bigger, because eventually, that hidden relationship became more than just two people. It became about a new life on the way. And that's when the story turned even more unbelievable. The pregnancy never became public. There were no leaks, no dramatic images, no sudden breaking headlines. In a world where even the smallest secrets struggled to stay hidden, this one remained protected until the very end. People later asked themselves again and again, how could this even happen? And let me tell you, it wasn't coincidence. It was intentional. It was careful. It was guarded. Every public appearance was calculated. Every movement was controlled. And slowly, an entire chapter of Sasha's life passed without ever becoming public property. But here's the shocking part. Living this way was not easy. Imagine carrying such a life-changing moment while knowing that if it became known, it would instantly become global news. Picture the pressure. Picture the fear. And still, she moved forward quietly, with strength, without seeking attention. The wildest part was that people only began to truly understand everything after it was already over. After the baby had arrived. After life had already shifted. Only then did they look back and realize just how carefully this story had been hidden in plain sight. And once it finally settled in that Sasha had become a mother, another question surfaced. Who actually knew? How many people helped protect this secret? And what did it reveal about the life she chose for herself? Because by that point, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. A decision to live differently. A decision to guard something precious. A decision to step away from the path everyone expected her to follow. But the story didn't stop there. In fact, that was the moment it began to grow even larger. Because once the baby arrived, it wasn't just Sasha's life that changed. The entire Obama family was stepping into a new chapter. A chapter filled with emotion, uncertainty, and a kind of pressure they had never experienced before. And that's where the next part of this story truly starts. When the news finally reached the family's inner circle, everything shifted in a quiet yet powerful way. This wasn't a moment that required speeches or cameras. Yes, you heard that right. The Obama family, the same family that had lived in front of the world for years, had now entered one of the most intimate chapters of their lives completely out of sight. For Barack and Michelle, this wasn't only about becoming grandparents. It was about watching their youngest daughter step into a life filled with responsibility, fear, hope, and love all at once. They had always worked to shield their children from overwhelming attention, even when the entire world wanted to watch every move. And once again, they chose quiet over noise. But here's the shocking part. The pressure surrounding this moment was heavier than anyone could imagine. This wasn't just any child. This baby was born into a family whose name carried history, expectations, and a weight few people could truly understand. From the very first day, her life was already being discussed by people who had never even seen her dot, so what makes this story different? It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about power. It was about fear. And it was about protection.